Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. So I got some good news and I got some bad news for you guys. The good news is that we have been in worse situations as a society, as a species than this before. Far worse. The 1930s, the 1910s, the 1940s, okay, World War II. The 60s probably sucked for a lot of people who were conscripted and sent overseas and thought that, the end of the world was nigh. The 70s were just a dirty, dirty time to exist. The bad news is that 2021 is not going to be better than 2020. I just do not see it being any better. In fact, I think when we cross that imaginary line in the sand on January 1st at 12 a.m., people are going to wake up and they're going to realize, wow, this is what life is now. This is how things are going to be moving forward. Because I do not think this COVID situation is going anywhere. I think that this is something which is going to be here to stay, regardless of how many people get the jab, and then how many people get the jab months from now, which is what nobody's talking about for some reason, that, this is obviously going to be a recurring seasonal thing. It's not going to go everywhere when hundreds of millions of people are infected by it. Let's stop deluding ourselves. This is here to stay, as are the economic repercussions. So I'm not going to sit here and be a Debbie Downer and say, everybody's going to die in 2021. That's not going to be the case, but I will quote from that movie, Dazed and Confused.
It's like our sergeant told us before one trip into the jungle. Men, 50 of you are leaving on a mission. 25 of you ain't coming back.
Not everybody's going to make it out okay in 2021. It's a game of musical chairs at this point, as far as I'm concerned, and it's going to be all about who's left holding the bag. Okay, whether you're in the stock market, whether it's the COVID situation, depending on which side of the political spectrum you're on and what you're fighting for, somebody is going to be shortchanged. Some people are going to be pissed off. And unfortunately, right now, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. The hard place is all of these compounding crises that we have. They're all positive, self-reinforcing feedback loops. The worse the economy gets, the worse government gets, because they want to intervene even more. The worse the pandemic gets, the worse the social unrest gets, and the worse the rift between these various superpowers around the world gets, and the more devalued the currency gets, and all of these things play on each other. So we have a long way to fall, in spite of the fact that it's nowhere near as bad as it was in the 1930s and the 1940s. We have a long way to fall just yet, okay? So the hard place is all these crises, and the rock is the government, which will become increasingly more authoritarian. I don't think anybody, regardless of whether you're a left-wing progressive or a right-wing conservative, you cannot deny the fact that the government will attempt at any point to get more power and control, but the government never wants to relinquish any power. So it's going to capitalize on all of these positive, self-reinforcing feedback loops, and it's going to continue to empower itself even more at the expense of the individual, such that the future is going to suck a lot more than the video game Cyberpunk 2077, which was an absolute disappointment. And yes, I played the game, I bought the game for cultural research purposes, okay? I'm not a gamer. I do not want to waste my precious time in somebody else's pixelated universe where the laws are predetermined and, I can only do a certain amount of things. No, I want to be out here in the real world, mastering myself for when the shit hits the fan. And that's what all of you should be doing. I should not speak in shoulds, because who the hell am I to tell you what to do, okay? But myself personally, at this point in the game, you got to be working your ass off, man, to get yourself in a position of relative security above and beyond the rest, to get your seat in the big game of musical chairs. Anyways, that Cyberpunk game, I play it because it's the same reason why I watch sci-fi movies. It gives me ideas about, what might be coming down the road, to be brutally honest, because as we've all seen, life does tend to imitate art to a large degree. And I also watched another movie that I'm going to be doing a review on in the not so distant future here. It's called Songbird. But both of them sucked as bad as 2020, but they're not going to suck nearly as bad as 2021, unfortunately. Namely, Cyberpunk sucked because visually and graphically speaking, I don't think there's ever been a better game that's been made. However, in terms of the actual gameplay, I don't think it holds a candle to other similar sandbox type games in its class like Grand Theft Auto. I mean, it just doesn't have the interactivity as those other games. It doesn't have the mini games and all the rest. Anyways, like I say, I would not advise wasting too much time on that stuff. What I would be focused on next year is getting yourself as squared away as possible, making sure that you're taking care of yourself, putting your physical health above and beyond every other thing in your life. Your physical health should be your absolute top priority at this point in time. And part of the problem I've always had with these various health recommendations coming from the health authorities is that very, very seldom will they ever really, push the idea of taking care of yourself and exercising and doing all this stuff that's healthy for yourself, because the industry is built around treatments. Okay, it's not built around people living healthy lifestyles. It's built around you continuing to stuff your face with garbage and then getting sick and then requiring, all of this expensive healthcare. Okay, but you wouldn't need a lot of that if we just took care of ourselves. So first and foremost, that should be on the top of everybody's list. It shouldn't be a New Year's resolution. We should start doing it today. Start taking care of yourself to the best of your capability. That means eating well. That means sleeping well, which I'm going to be quite honest, I do not do well. That's something that this year especially, I'm tired, guys. I got to tell you, I'm really, really tired. But, I'm trying to stay the course because I'm hoping that maybe come 2040 or so, things will settle down a bit in the sense that I will just be so old and senile by then that I won't be able to notice how bad things suck. I really think though, right now, getting your finances squared away, myself personally, what I'm doing is I'm trying to keep balance. I don't have any money in savings. It's all either in investments or it's diversified into various assets, because I think the last thing you want to be doing right now is holding dollars which are depreciating in a bank where you're only maybe making a fraction on the interest. It's not like it was in the old days when you could put money in the bank and the compound interest you could get rich off that. It's not like that nowadays, as most of you know. So you got to get that money working for you somehow, whether that's investing it in a business, investing it in the stock market. To be honest, even if the dollar does depreciate and it crashes and everybody, runs for the door, as long as you have a piece of a company, as long as it's a good company, that's something that, they can't take away from you. So even if the stock market does crash, even if we see a big sell-off come, late January, February, if that happens, you'll still have a piece of the pie. And if you're a believer in, the inflationary and deflationary bubbles and the debt bubbles and all that, then over time, things will come back to normal. All right. So that's kind of my main strategy, is getting into various tech stocks, because I do believe that this COVID thing is here to stay. Okay. And whether we like it or not, you can completely isolate yourself from Babylon, right? Or you can try to game the system to your advantage where possible. If you just try to isolate yourself entirely, I don't think it's going to work out that well. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't diversify. Myself personally, I can only speak for myself, diversify into a limited amount of precious metals and possibly even some cryptocurrency, possibly some real estate, and any renewable energy source that you have is essentially a source of wealth moving forward here. If you have land to grow food on that you can regenerate energy on, whether that's in the form of food energy or energy from the sun, that is going to be one of those assets which will pay dividends from here on in. And of course, real estate is something I'm looking at If and when the market does finally stabilize, apparently there's some eviction moratorium which is supposed to be lifted come January, so there's expected that there's going to be a housing crisis next year. And what that does to the real estate market, God only knows, and that's going to have effects up here in Canada as well. So once the smoke clears and the dust settles on that, that's when I'm going to start to look for a property, a place to lay some roots where I can actually build my homestead. So I'm hoping that time comes sooner than later. But like I say, this COVID thing, guys, it is not going anywhere. That's what we need to acknowledge, that this COVID is here to stay. Regardless of how many people get the jab, you're gonna have to get the jab every year from here on. I just don't see how we can reason that that's not going to be the case when we see this thing mutating the way it has. I mean, in the UK, they're already finding a new strain, and apparently this jab is still supposed to be effective against it. But really, is it? I mean, we really need months before we really know exactly what is going on, it seems, because the consensus on these matters seems to change from week to week. So I am not putting my confidence in that right now. And of course, we have this political divide. You guys have probably seen the videos of the street battles. People are becoming more and more divided while the wealthy continue to go to the bank. Okay, and they do that in the form of their investments. And there's still these knuckleheads out there, battling it out in the streets, thinking that they're solving the world's problems by fighting each other, when what they should be focused on is changing economic policy, going through the appropriate legal channels, going through the political channels, because that's the only way you're going to ever affect any significant change. You're not going to do it getting in fistfights, doing the man dance, doing the monkey dance in the street with other people. All that's going to do is probably bring you a short-term false sense of confidence and pride, and your picture is going to get taken, and then they're going to pull your number later on. It's just not going to be worth it. It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. So focus on yourself. Just because 2021 is going to suck, probably worse than 2020, because we've kind of kicked that can down the road, and we can't kick that can down the road much more. In 2020, that can picked up a lot of mud, and you can't kick it. It's going to be a boulder come 2021. So we need to focus on what we can do for ourselves, not what stimulus check is going to come down the road. I'm listening to some of these pundits talk about how, the people don't really need or want a stimulus check. And it's like,
but the economists that I'm talking to, they say, listen, we don't know that stimulus checks are really needed right now.
But, the economists that I'm talking to, they say, listen, we don't know that stimulus checks are really needed right now.
Who the hell are these guys who are doing so well, who are so far removed from what's going on? And even I am, far removed from it now, because obviously we're all isolating, but me just doing the YouTube thing and not, working a day job like I used to. Even I'm wise enough to know that people are struggling out there right now. Like, how could you not? The debt has, especially after this holiday season, and after all of the depression that's going to come from people who can't see their family members this year, there's going to be a lot of really pissed off, frustrated, economically stressed people out there who are going to be taking it out on each other. And how convenient is it that right around this time of slow burn economic SHTF, everybody's more polarized than we've ever been before? How convenient is that for the people sneaking out the back door with a bag of money? Think about it. So all I can say, guys, is prepare for shit to get wild. I do think that this was just a platform for the future, this 2020 thing. When you really pull the lens back and you look at all the stuff that is going on and all of the impending catastrophes that you've seen in all those apocalyptic movies throughout the last 10, 20 years, well, all of those things now are within arm's reach, okay? Whether it's the climate situation, we had a record storm anomalies this year, record wildfires, record temperatures of all types, record snowstorms, record everything. So I would be remiss to not end this video on a more hopeful note. Myself personally, I don't need hope. I don't need somebody to tell me that things are going to be all right. I don't need a happy Hollywood ending. I don't want happy Hollywood endings. Me, I run faster scared than, towards, something that's enticing. Okay, so for some people, they watch all these doomer videos and they walk away feeling stressed out and depressed, and you should not. If that's what it's doing to you, then you're doing it wrong. That should be your fuel to get your shit together. That should be what motivates you to go out there and put in work and be the best possible version of yourself you can be, so that when the time does come for you to face some major challenge in your life, you are best prepared. You are as prepared as you could possibly be. So if watching this type of content, focusing on prepper stuff, just stresses you out and incapacitates you and makes you less productive in your life, then it's not good for you. Okay, then you should be focusing on something else. For some people, look, watching the trending page is going to be more productive for them as people. And if that's the case, then go do that. Because you being empowered, you taking care of yourself, that's one less liability out there, okay, for the rest of us. So as survivalists and preppers moving forward, you need to be smart about the battles that you choose, the things you commit to, and also the walling yourself off from certain possibilities and opportunities. I've never been somebody who just was going to go run into the woods and not partake in society at all, because to me that's kind of stupid. To be brutally honest, if there's opportunities to do something in Babylon, okay, maybe you should do the wise thing and hedge your bets. You know what I'm saying? Maybe going all in and just moving into the forest with your chickens is not the best idea. Maybe you should have one foot in the door just in case, okay? So we need to come to terms with this idea that as these crises continue to mount and things do continue to get worse from here on in, that the authoritarian nature of our government structure is only going to intensify. And as such, it's going to be harder for self-reliant type people to do their thing, okay? To be self-reliant in a way which is free and in a way in which you have individual choice. See, there's two kinds of off-grid nomads. There's the off-grid nomad that logs in every time they catch a Wi-Fi signal or a cell signal. And then there's the true, off-the-grid Amish type people that the government probably hates, because they're the ones who can't be tracked. They're the free-range ones, and I'm certainly not one of those people. I want to have the best of both worlds. I know it's impossible. I want my cake. I want to eat it too. I want to be able to trash talk Cyberpunk 2077. I want to be able to experience that, but I also want to have the liberty to run off into the woods if I have to, and live the life of a free man on the land, to the extent that that's even possible nowadays. All right, so I'm going to end on an uplifting note, because I know a lot of people like that. Lots of people like the happy endings to movies. I could personally care less. But if you need a happy ending to a movie, just know that things have been far, far worse than what they are right now. And people have persevered. And if you can get into an opportunistic mindset right now, if you cannot be overcome by the stress and the fear, and if you can look at this crisis situation as a time of great opportunity, then this could be a transformative period for you in your life, because the majority of people are going to be petrified by fear. They're just going to follow the herd. They're going to resign themselves to whatever options present themselves. But if you can be a little bit forward thinking, and if you can take the initiative, and if you're willing to work your ass off, you are going to prevail through 2021 you're going to excel above and beyond the rest. So anyways, guys, gals, all of you who've showed me support on this channel throughout 2020, I really do appreciate it. I hope that the channel has been useful for you in a way which has been empowering in your life, not just prepping, okay, but I want to see you make personal progress in your life above and beyond merely surviving. It's about thriving, okay? It's about making progress. It's not just about meeting your baseline subsistence needs. It's about getting ahead. Like I always say, the strong survive, but the prepared thrive. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe and get ready, because it's only just begun. Canadian Prepper out.